Welcome back to the King Film Sports Bracketology for NCAA Basketball 2024, and let's get right into it. So to start this year, I'm just going to be giving you guys all an update, and for this, I'm just going to be predicting the bracket that Joe Lunardi puts out for this video, just to give you a sense of what kind of teams I think are close to the cut line. This bracket is a little stale. It's from before Saturday's games happened, but I'm just going to give you guys a broad sense update of who I would think would win, just using my power ratings right now, and which teams are playing the best, which teams have fallen off, which teams aren't playing as hard as they have through the season, and which teams I think that maybe haven't been so good right now could pick it up in a tournament setting right now, especially on the neutral floor, because there have been a lot of teams that have been getting upset on the road. So let's get right into it with the 11 versus 11 matchups. We've got Washington State against Seton Hall here, and Seton Hall has been on the downward spiral, just lost to Villanova by 20 plus in that one. Seton Hall got a couple of great home wins at the beginning of conference play in the Big East, but have fallen off since. That home court advantage in the Big East has severely fallen off since Seton Hall got those couple upsets against UConn and Marquette, respectively. Washington State has been rolling. They've been great at home, upset Arizona, upset Utah, upset Colorado, and also have now won at both Oregon and Oregon State. I like Washington State to keep it rolling there. Mississippi State against Cincinnati in the 10 versus 10 matchup. Obviously, this is just a function of how many teams are getting auto bids out of their conferences, how many bid thieves are there. But I'm going to have to take Cincinnati in this one. They lost to Houston on Saturday, so we'll see what happens to them. Maybe they drop below the cut line, but this Cincinnati team is legit. They have a lot of close losses in the Big 12. They have a couple close wins as well. Great resume, but this Cincinnati team is not even getting the benefit of the doubt. Most of those losses come on the road. Great road wins against BYU and Texas Tech. So, I mean, Cincinnati is just a player in the Big 12. It would be a shame if they missed the tournament because of, say, just below sub 500 Big 12 record. The Big 12 is just so loaded. Even these new teams like Houston is one of the best teams in the nation. BYU is having their best season in years. Cincinnati is a tournament-worthy team and would be certainly if they were still in the American. Even UCF is a tough out for these teams, but yeah, I like Cincinnati to win this one. So we'll go on to the first round. I'm just going to have one seeds, and all the seeds that are playing the automatic qualifiers winning. I'll go over some of the notable ones, say the 12 seeds, maybe the 11s as well. St. Mary's TCU would be our first game here in Detroit, and St. Mary's got off to a tough start of the season. TCU's been up and down. I like St. Mary's in this one. Why? TCU lost to Nevada. St. Mary's has dominated the Mountain West competition that they've seen, and they had obviously an up and down non-conference, but have been just rolling over these WCC opponents. And most people will give TCU the benefit of the doubt in this one, say that they've played a lot of these Big 12 opponents that are so tough, but I like St. Mary's here. They've been rolling of late, and I think TCU is just a bit overrated. Most of their wins come on the home floor, and they've won a lot of close ones as well. Even they've done a lot of window dressing in games that they really should have lost by more as well. How about Colorado State at the 6 against number 11 Nebraska? And this is the classic 6 seed Mountain West team where, you think that they've been overrated, but this Colorado State team is not, I assure you. They beat Minnesota in a preseason game by 50, and, don't put much stock on that. How about this? They beat top 10 Creighton by 20 in the actual season. And of course, when you get into Mountain West play and conference play in general, things are going to go topsy-turvy on you, especially on the road. Same thing with Nebraska here. They have a couple top-notch wins. I could see this game going either way. I'm going to give Colorado State the benefit of the doubt right now. Clemson, Florida. This is a good game, but Clemson, they've played better as of late, but Florida has played much better. Florida just beat Auburn by 25. Granted, it's on the home floor. I don't really know how Clemson is the 7 seed. I think it's just the resume overall. Even with the recent regression, Clemson won at UNC. I still like Florida in this one. Give me the first upset of the tournament there. They'll go on to play Kansas in that second round there. Now let's go on to the East in Boston, and the first match I'll be going over is Michigan State against Boise State, and Michigan State, obviously, big win against Illinois. They'll probably jump up to a higher seed line here. Boise State, we'll see what happens through the rest of Mountain West play, but they just lost a back-to-back at Colorado State and Utah State. I like Michigan State to win this one if this was ever a matchup. This might be a matchup, but I would say Michigan State would be on the 7 line. Boise State would be down to the 10 line, if not the 11 line after those back-to-back losses. Don't really hurt the resume, but Boise State obviously would like to win one of those. Then we have Iowa State against South Florida. Give me Iowa State there. Kentucky against Indiana State, and this one is the first one where it gets a little hairy. A lot of bracketologists have Indiana State from the 11 line up to the 9 line, even the 8 line I've seen for Indiana State. So I think that they should probably be at the 11 line, just across the cut line. Just the 3 losses for them, not many wins. I like Kentucky, no matter how bad they've been at home here, and they've lost 3 straight home games, so that's pretty bad. Gonzaga this past Saturday, the Tennessee game, and then the Florida game. Oh my goodness, that was horrid by them. I think that they can bounce back, but they might not be as good of a team as we thought they were when they were up to the 3-4 line. So we'll see what happens there. I like Kentucky to win that matchup regardless. Then Texas against Texas A&M and North Carolina Colgate. I feel like we always have these 4 teams in a quadrant together. Texas A&M. I'm going to go with Texas A&M. Texas has been fraudulent all year. They're just riding that home court, rode it to get to overtime against Houston. I like Texas A&M to get it done there and face North Carolina. Let's go to the second round of this Midwest bracket. We've got Purdue against St. Mary's, and I just like Purdue to clean it up. Again, St. Mary's, first round they dominated last year against VCU, and then they ran into a buzzsaw in UConn. Maybe it'll be like that again where they face the champions in the second round. We'll see what I have happening here, but I like Purdue. Just too much size. St. Mary's is inconsistent scoring the ball against these big defensive teams, and I just don't think they can get it done there and pull off the upset. So then we'd have Florida Atlantic against Duke. And to be honest, Samford could beat Florida Atlantic no matter what team they're playing in the first, second, third round, or however long they advance. I think it's going to be a game that is within a possession in the last 5 minutes, and they did not fail that thesis when they played at Wichita State this Sunday, only winning in overtime. They did cover the game by winning by 13 in overtime, just exploding there, but Florida Atlantic's been very fortunate so far. They're a very fraudulent 5 seed. If they don't get upset by Samford, I see Duke winning this one by 20 plus because they just love to play in these close games. How about Colorado State against Auburn? I like Auburn to clean up that one easily. Despite the 25-point loss at Florida, I think this Auburn team is still stacked, loaded, and, they might not have those resume-defining wins, but my goodness, some of those losses are brutal. At Baylor in the just start of the season at the Sanford Pentagon, that was just a brutal loss, and they haven't had many opportunities. They will get them in SEC play, but a lot of them come on the road. Then we have Florida against Kansas in the 10-2 matchup. Honestly, I could see Florida pulling the upset here, but I'm going to go with Kansas just because they've been the more consistent team throughout the course of the season. Kansas is a little bit fraudulent at the 2 seed, though. I'm giving you guys fair warning. And so let's go to the third round in this same bracket. We've got Purdue against Duke. And in this one, I'm also going to go with Purdue. Duke has been a little up and down this season. That home loss against Pitt was set off the alarm bells a little bit. Same with their loss against Arizona. When they go against these teams with a couple bigs, they kind of struggle a little bit. Duke also struggled at home against Clemson. So if Duke's shot is not on, I could see them easily losing a game here, and Purdue's just the better team, possibly the best team in the nation. And then we've got Kansas against Auburn, and I see Auburn winning this one by 20 plus and getting to the regional final there. So Auburn against Purdue, I'm going to pick Purdue. Auburn also lives and dies by the 3, so that's what I have happening there. Second round in the East, UConn against Michigan State, and this is dangerous for UConn. I'm going to have them advancing, but this was a top 4 Michigan State team in the preseason, and their talent level says that should still be so. They're dealing with a couple injuries right now. Obviously, by the time the tournament happens, those should be solved. I like UConn to keep it rolling here. Michigan State should give them a really good game, perhaps one better than they bargained for. I'd take Michigan State spread, but I think UConn would win that game. Then we've got South Carolina, most overrated team in NCAA basketball right now. They might even go up to a 4 seed after what happened this weekend against Iowa State at the 4 seed. I'm going to take Iowa State to win here easily. They have the tougher game, even though South Carolina gets to play the 12 seed McNeese State. Iowa State gets a tough one in South Florida. South Florida can make it through that American Conference tournament. I'm not so sure that they'd be the 13 seed, but assuming it's Iowa State against South Carolina, I like Iowa State to win this one by 20 plus. They've been a lot better in Big 12 play, great at home, as a lot of these Big 12 teams have been. South Carolina, they've won on the road. They're very proven. A lot of good wins for them. Very surprising team. They're very fraudulent. They've won a lot by close games, and no one really cares if you win the regular season SEC championship by, 10 games where you're winning by 3. It's about what you do in the tournament. I like South Carolina to get eviscerated here on the neutral site if that doesn't happen earlier in SEC play. Then we've got Kentucky against Illinois, and Illinois, of course, just suffered the loss to Michigan State. A couple of these teams reeling here. Kentucky, obviously, as I just mentioned. I like Illinois to win this one, assuming Shannon is still allowed to play in the tournament. Assuming that restraining order gets continued until after the tournament. We'll see what happens. Kentucky, lots of young players, lots of freshmen that are probably going to the NBA. Lots of talent on that team, as you saw in that Gonzaga game, but my goodness, they got almost everything to go in that game and they still lost. So we'll see what they can do. They have few good wins on their resume, but I don't know where Kentucky is going right now. And the SEC is a tough conference, let me tell you. So we'll see how far they drop. Illinois could drop to the 4 line as well. I like them to win that matchup. Then we've got TAMU against North Carolina. I like North Carolina to bounce back. They've had a couple tough games, barely beat Miami. Texas A&M just drubbed Tennessee. Granted, it was at home. Texas A&M, different team, home versus away. So I like North Carolina to win that one. Let's go on to the semifinals here. UConn against Iowa State, and my goodness, another horrible game for UConn's path here. I like Iowa State to win it in an upset. UConn might be the best team in the nation, but this, even though they get a week off between these games, I mean, playing the Green Bay game is easy, but that's a tough 16 seed out of the horizon there. Then you've got Michigan State, then Iowa State, who I think gets, if they can take care of South Florida easily, then I think they have an easy second round matchup against South Carolina. And I've got to have some upsets somewhere. I think Iowa State could blitz UConn, Klingon, and the boys here and win that game to get to the regional final against. And I'll actually go with Illinois here. Terrence Shannon Jr., he's not completely priced in. There were that few game stretch where they were playing closer to teams and losing to teams that they shouldn't have lost to when he was out. North Carolina also has been very fortunate in ACC play. Opponents just aren't shooting threes well against them, and it's not like they're defending the three like a team like Houston. They've just been fortunate that teams just can't make a shot against them. I expect that to regress in the long term. Give me Shannon Jr. and Illinois to win that game and advance to the regional final. Then Iowa State against Illinois. I expect Iowa State to end that there and give the Big 12 a representative in the Final Four there. Let's move on to the bottom. Virginia against New Mexico. I like New Mexico. This is just an electric matchup for any college basketball fans. New Mexico, top 5 fastest paces in Division I college basketball. Virginia, bottom 5. As always, they love to slow the game down, just play defense. Wow. Which team would win this? I think it's the classic, Big Ten West kind of thing in football. If a team can just score enough on Virginia and just make them get out of their game plan, then their whole kind of game plan won't work and they will have to score and they can't score. So I like New Mexico to win that one easily, but then I expect them to get stopped by an Arizona team that plays a very similar style of ball. I could see that over-under being in excess of 150, probably in excess of 160 or 170. That would be a great game to see. New Mexico, if they could just hit their shots, then Arizona could be upset again, but I expect Arizona to be winning that one a great deal. Creighton against Grand Canyon. Creighton has been bad against these West Coast teams, west of the Mississippi, shall I say, even though they're from Omaha, and Grand Canyon could give them a game. I expect Creighton to advance there. Then Baylor-Akron, we'll just give Baylor the nod there. Creighton-Baylor, that would be a good game. I'd give it to Baylor. Again, Baylor shot lights out in the non-conference. They've regressed a bit during Big 12 play. They love the three, and they get to the basket all right, but in some of these close games, they've gotten the short end of the stick. I will say that triple overtime game against TCU in specific at home. But if Baylor can hold on to this 4 seed, I expect them to beat Creighton here. I just feel like the Big East is a little overrated at large just because of some of the bottom feeders sitting in that conference in the Big 12. You legitimately do not have many easily games there. Then we've got BYU against Ole Miss. I expect BYU to win this one by a lot, but both of these teams like to play with a high pace. Ole Miss is one of the luckiest teams in the nation. I expect them to regress in that metric. Give me BYU to win that one. Then they would play Wisconsin, another high-paced team. BYU likes to get up in excess of 33-pointers a night. If they could do that against a Wisconsin team that breaks the classic Wisconsin build of a defensive team, then I don't know what would happen. That would be a great game. This quadrant is just the quadrant of these high-powered offenses that love to shoot, love to go fast, and I feel like Wisconsin would win, but my goodness, they're in this 4-game slide right now. Who knows when they'll get out of it? I'll go with the upset here and pick BYU, but honestly, it just comes down to how many threes BYU can make on any given night, and we've seen the good and the bad on that, playing up to the nose of Houston at home or just losing to Cincy at home. So, BYU can go up on you by 20 in just a matter of minutes, and they can also blow that lead in, 5 more minutes if they don't hit a 3. So we'll see what happens in that one. If BYU can get lucky, they can advance, and that's what I like to happen there. Texas Tech, Butler. I like Texas Tech to win this one. Butler is one of the most fraudulent teams I've seen. They've won a lot of close games, and they've buffed their resume. Good for them. They'll make the tournament. I expect them to get drubbed by tournament team Texas Tech here. Then Tennessee against Texas Tech. I like Tennessee to win this one. They've been down recently, just got drubbed at the hands of Texas A&M. And, that road win at Kentucky is looking a little fraudulent as Kentucky starts to reel. But I would like Tennessee to win this one. Just their defensive style, it's got to carry some weight. if Texas Tech shoots hot, Tennessee's gone, which is always the risky thing backing these defensive teams. But I like them to win against Texas Tech here and play BYU. And once again, I think Tennessee would win against BYU. If BYU just shoots, excess of 40-50% from three, I think they'd win. But is that going to happen every time? Tennessee defends the perimeter pretty well. I like Tennessee to get on to the regional final where they would face the winner of Baylor against Arizona. Another great game. Who can shoot the three better? I like Arizona to do it there. So give me the chalk 1-2 game in the regional final. And I like Arizona to bring an end to Tennessee's defensive dominance. And part of this, both of these teams are perennial chokers in March Madness. Give me Arizona to get it done and move the Pac-12 into the Final Four there. Now we've got the South Regional, Dallas, Houston, and then Utah against Northwestern in that one. Utah has just fallen off recently. I'm surprised they're still at the 8 line. Obviously, they lost to Arizona State. I could see them dropping 2 lines. I'm surprised they're even in the tournament, to be quite frank with you. Give me Northwestern to win this one and face Houston, where I think they would also get killed in that matchup. They are shooting 40-50% in league play on three-pointers. That will regress down. Houston got killed at Kansas, but Kansas shot like 70% on them, and that is just very unlucky. Houston is the best team in the nation, whether you like it or not. Even if their resume doesn't show it, I like them to easily get past Northwestern there. Then we've got San Diego State against UC Irvine. I like San Diego State to get it done. If this was at Irvine, you saw San Diego State struggle, barely win at UCSD. They also lost at Grand Canyon, so they are not great on the road. This one is in a difficult environment, Spokane not being one of them, but this was, say in LA, which isn't a regional city, but instead a regional final city, that could be tougher for San Diego State, but I like them to win that. Then you've got Dayton against Louisiana Tech. Again, this is a Dayton team that could easily be upset, but the VCU upset that they suffered is not priced in here. I expect them to go down to a 5 seed. I like them to beat La Tech, though. Then you've got Oklahoma against Washington State, as I said, and I like Oklahoma to win that one. Oklahoma's been up and down over the course of the season, but I think they would easily get past Washington State, who is a bit fraudulent, and just end the Cougars' run right there. Alabama playing Oklahoma. This would be a great offensive matchup. I like Alabama to get it done. They're a bit power rated high because, they beat the teams that they're supposed to be beat by 20, by 40, so the power ratings love that and eat it up, and they've been on the downward spiral as of late, but I like Alabama. Got a great win at LSU. They've now swept the Tigers. I like them to get to the regional semifinal there. Then you've got Utah State against Mississippi State / Cincinnati. As I said, Cincinnati would win this game. And Utah State against Cincinnati. I honestly like Cincinnati to win. Utah State is just a little bit fraudulent. Got very lucky in the non-conference. Won a lot of games by 5 or fewer points. And, the Mountain West just seems to have a curse in these games where they're getting overseeded. Tough matchup here. Cincinnati, just a great Big 12 team that might be underrated. They might even drop to the 11 line, as I've said before, which would just be brutal for them. And I think they're a tough out. I think they beat Utah State here. And then they'd play Marquette. I think they could totally beat Marquette. I'm actually going to have that happening 10-2. Sorry, Marquette, losing again in this game. Last year it was Michigan State that did it to them. This year I'm going to have it being Cincinnati on a good shooting night. So Cincinnati would play Alabama. Again, Marquette, great team, but they are susceptible to some of these big upsets when they don't play right. Will Kolek get to the brim? Will some of their other players, Jones and others, get to the hoop if they're not playing well? I don't know. Is the coaching as good as it's made out to be? I don't know. I'm going to have Cincinnati winning that and playing Bama. And I'm actually going to have Cincy beating Alabama. Alabama's just a bit fraudulent if they don't have their three-point shooting. Not a reliable team to go off of. Cincinnati will get to the bucket. It's going to be ugly, but, if they can shoot well to complement that, it'll be good. But going to the benefit of the doubt, I like Cincinnati to slow that game enough to get Bama out of their socks and get to the Elite Eight, where Dayton against San Diego State, and this is the classic from COVID. Remember that both of these teams would have been 2 seeds. This would be a great matchup right now. I think San Diego State would just win by 30, though. Dayton, a little overrated for my liking right now. Haven't really played too many quality opponents. San Diego State has, and they've lost them, to be fair, but they've also lost 4 games at altitude, including at BYU in the out-of-conference on the road. So, San Diego State will be far underrated here. Veteran roster. I like them to get it done, hunker down, and play Houston, who is ready to play the same game with them. And so San Diego State against Houston, defensive matchup. This over-under might be like 121, something about that. And I like the under, to be honest. I like Houston to win. San Diego State won't be able to get up a shot. They will cover whatever number it is. Hopefully it's not more than 7 or 8. The power ratings love San Diego State as well. But yeah, I'd like Houston by like 7 to 8 in that matchup. And then playing Cincinnati, well, we just saw this game at Cincinnati, so I guess we'll give Houston the benefit of the doubt, send them to the Final Four. So our Final Four teams, we've got Houston 1 seed, Arizona 1 seed. I gave it to Iowa State, the 4 seed, and then Purdue, the 1 seed. So 3 1 seeds. I mean, obviously, I don't know what you want me to say. I've been watching way too much college basketball this season. So yeah, I'm just going to not have too many upsets in this first version of the bracketology, but let's get into it. Iowa State against Houston. Well, we've seen this matchup. Iowa State won on their home court. I'm sorry, Houston's winning on a neutral site. So give me Houston in the semifinal. Iowa State needed everything to go their way in that game at home, and it did. And they won quite easily, to be honest. But that won't happen again. Won't happen in the game at Houston, and won't happen on a neutral court here. And then Purdue against Arizona. I feel like this is a game I've seen already, but I think Purdue will win it. And then Purdue against Houston. This is just the game everyone wants to see. We've seen a lot of these top-tier matchups already. Purdue's played one of the hardest schedules in the nation. Houston has also played a pretty tough schedule being in the Big 12. They also played A&M out of conference and a few other marquee opponents. Give me Purdue to win, but I could see this one going either way, to be honest. Give me Purdue to make it the 16 seed upset to eternal glory in one season. So give me that to happen. Please comment if there's any teams that are notably missing in here. Thank you for watching, and please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel.